to another episode of the Body and Mind Strong podcast. My name is Renee, your host and integrated wellness coach. My mission with Body and Mind Strong is to help active, busy women reclaim their health, strength, and sense of self in a sustainable way that fits their life. And here's the truth. I've seen time and time again, both personally and with my clients, when it comes to improving our health and wellness, most people don't struggle because they don't know what to do. They struggle because something keeps getting in the way. We often think it's a lack of motivation or discipline, but in reality, it's usually deeper than that because there are real everyday barriers that make it hard to stay consistent. Things like time constraints, stress, feeling overwhelmed, limited resources, or even the expectation we place on ourselves. And women, we tend to put a lot on ourselves. We tend to expect way more from ourselves than we do from others, right? And sometimes those barriers aren't obvious at first. They show up as skipped workouts, inconsistent routines, emotional eating, or that constant feeling of, I'll start again next week. Sound familiar? The truth is, you can have the best plan in the world, but if you don't recognize what's standing in your way, it can be really hard to move forward. So in today's episode, I'm going to do a little mishmash of info. First, we're going to talk about those barriers, a few common ones that hold so many back in improving their health and wellness, then a few ways to overcome them. And finally, I'll wrap up by sharing my own personal barriers and how something like tiny living has challenged me in ways I didn't expect, but has also taught me a lot about adaptability, mindsets, and what it really takes to stay consistent, which I will also include answers to a few common questions I get for living so small. All right, first things first. Common barriers people have that keeps them from improving their overall health and wellness. First one, and this is the one I hear the most, and it's the lack of time. And I'm not saying you guys aren't busy. I truly believe you guys have a lot on your plate. That you have a lot to do. But what I see when it comes to lack of time, it's due to issues with time management, right? I see we tend to put our priorities in areas that we don't value as much. We put more time into those areas than in the areas that we value more. All right. Another one is lack of motivation and willpower. And I'd like to separate these two because the way I view it is motivation is that cuddly little blanket that you want to just curl up in. It's so nice to have. And then willpower is the work. So what I see more often than not is we tend to rely heavily on motivation, which we all know it doesn't last, right? But we rely more on that and not so much on our willpower. And I know you guys all have that willpower. It's just for some reason, we tend to have a harder time wrapping our fingers around the willpower that we do have. Another one is stress, right? Stress causes so many issues and can cause barriers. It can cause physical health issues. It can cause brain fog, fatigue. Stress does get in the way. Another one is lack of knowledge or misinformation. You don't know what you don't know. So do some research, or depending on what your goal is, grab someone like me to get you jumpstart to help you fill in the gaps till you feel like you know enough that you can do it on your own. Another barrier is comfort and habits. And a big part of it we like the comfort, we like those habits, but part of it is we do it unconsciously because, it's a habit, right? That's what defines a habit, is something that we do unconsciously because we've done it so many times. We don't even have to think about it, do it. That's why they became habits to begin with. It was something that we were doing all the time. Now, switching out those habits takes energy, takes mindset, takes mental power to change those. So it's a lot harder to change the habits because we have to put that effort in. But once you put that effort in, that new habit becomes unconscious as well, and things get a lot easier. All right, another barrier is cost and financial restraints. I think that just says it all. Another one is limited resources that you need to accomplish your goals. And it could be limited resource based on financial strains, based on where you live, your community, so forth. There could be various reasons why there's limited resources. And the final one I have listed is social and cultural norm, which is something I will bring up again later because it's actually one of my barriers. And which mine comes to must be buy, everything must buy big. But I'm going to come back to that one. All right, here are a few things on how to overcome this. First of all, identify what your barrier is and acknowledge that it's an issue, because once you acknowledge them, it does become easier to overcome them. Another one is get away from the all or nothing mindset. And this should sound familiar because I did speak about this in the last episode, the 2 episodes about growth mindset. So you want to get away from that all or nothing thinking. So this goes into the next tip, which is you go from the all or nothing thinking to I can't, which is the all or nothing, to I can't do this, but I can do this instead. So it's kind of like having a backup plan. And ladies, if life has taught us anything, we always have to have some kind of backup plan because things just get in the way, right? Next one is build habits around your current lifestyle. Don't try to do a massive overhaul because changing habits is hard to begin with. It's totally doable, but it's hard in the way that it just takes time, effort, energy. So you want to start small, which is another tip. You want to start small around it, but you don't want to try to massive overhaul everything and add that extra stress in on top of things by doing that. So you want to start small. And then you want to get clear on your why. And we've talked about this before. When I have you guys set goals, I always have you define your why because your why is going to be there when your motivation fades. It becomes the new motivation. It becomes your discipline. It becomes your willpower because that motivation, right? It does fade. And this is where that grasping onto that willpower is going to help us, and knowing the why is going to help us grasp that willpower, right? Okay, next, give yourself flexibility, not excuses. Life happens, modify the plan when needed. And like I said earlier, we sometimes just have to pivot when we need to. And then you want to simplify things. Find easy ways to track. Create simple routines. Break things down so it can feel more achievable. And not only break things down, but maybe you need to have some automation, right? Have some systems into place to help maintain that mental and physical health that you're trying to achieve. Just like we do, with bills, you automatic billing, right? That just happens. What are other areas in your life that you can throw in some automation that will make it a little bit easier for you? All right, on to the next topic, which is questions I get around living tiny, which is more like micro living. For those who don't know, I actually live in an 18-foot travel trailer. Yes, 18 feet is my entire living. I live completely in there, and it consists of a almost full queen size bed in it. It's got a table with the bench seats. It's got a kitchen area, and it's got a wet bath, which actually has quite a lot of storage in it. And because a lot of wet baths tend to be small, this one's huge. So it's got a lot of storage in it. But yes, it's all within 18 feet. So that is one of my biggest barriers is size. And let me go into some of the questions and I'll explain more about some of my barriers and stuff with all this. So first things first, how do you cook in such a small kitchen? So my kitchen I actually don't know how long it is but if I spread out my arms, and I'm 5'8", if I spread out my arms, that's about the width of my countertop, which has the sink and my stove top on it, and then some counter around it, right? So that's about the size. And so honestly, I don't cook a lot. I don't like to cook. And so I try to find quick, simple things to do. And especially in the summertime, the stove does not come on because living in such a small space, when I'm here in Arizona, in southern Arizona during the summertime, I'm already having a hard time keeping this thing cool. So the stove just doesn't come on. So I have to find my workarounds around that. How do I make eating easier? What are a lot more salads? There's other things I can do that's easy to make in the microwave. Anything I can pull from the fridge, sandwiches, wraps, stuff like that. So I do find my workaround around that. But also my other huge barrier with all this is, and I'm just going to be real, I am a picky eater. So I really do have to find workarounds ways for all this. So yeah, that's how I work in the kitchen. All right. And next, this is the weekly meal prep. I'm a huge advocate for weekly meal prep. And I'm not talking about prepping everything because I know that can take a lot of time. But there's certain things that I've had to prep in the past that I just found so beneficial for me. And like salads. Well, I can't prep a full week of salads because I just don't have the fridge space for it. So my fridge is probably around 6, maybe closer to 8, but it's about, I think, around closer to 6 cubic feet. And to give you some size reference, the standard fridges that we have are 18 to 25. Mine is around between 6 and 8, somewhere within there. So I can meal prep salads, but I'm just not going to have a lot of other space for anything else. And so I can only meal prep for a few days at a time. So I have to make sure I have enough time in the morning to prep certain things. So that's my barrier. I don't have the space to do all the meal prep at one time. So I have to make sure throughout the week I have time to get in there and prep a few days at a time. And I will meal prep my breakfast because I found for me so easy to do a meal prep for oatmeal. I take it to work. I could just cook it in a cup in the microwave. It's super easy. I mix up the dried fruit in it, add different types of nuts, healthy nuts, so forth, different types of protein powders. So I've just found that super easy. And it's actually easier for me to meal prep oatmeal because I don't need fridge space for that. So I have found my workarounds that work for me. All right. Next question is around cleaning. That the question statement that get must be easy to clean and quick. Yes and no. So yes, it doesn't take long to clean, but you're constantly putting things away. You're constantly organizing because clutter happens in seconds and you don't realize that living in a big house. When you live in tiny, it doesn't take much to be clutter. Like you're constantly putting things away. So that's where the time comes in. It's not so much the cleaning aspect, quote, cleaning aspect. It's more of the organizing, putting things away, especially if I want to cook or do something in the kitchen or on my table. I'm always putting things away so I have the space for it. All right, next, does it change your mindset around stuff and consumption? Oh, yes, it does. It is crazy how your mindset shifts when you go from living big to living small. And you don't even have to go this tiny to have your mindset shift around it. But for me, it's been big. And there's two parts of it that I want to bring up with mindset shift. Is one, I used to be a huge fan of Black Fridays. And then over the years, that just started tapering away because I ended up having everything kind of needed. So I would go, but I wouldn't need to buy that many things. And then as soon as I went small, it was almost like I couldn't go because I didn't have the space to buy things. And then and why do I even want to go? I've got everything I need. I don't need extra stuff. And then I started seeing everyone buy all this stuff and I think it's crazy. So it's the weirdest thing at how it does shift your mindset. And the other thing I've really run into, and this is kind of barrier, especially like I talked about financials earlier, and this is kind of a barrier, is social and cultural norms it's about buying big, right? Buy gross, buy bulk, buy, like if you go to like Kroger's, Fry's, Safeway, they always have ads, if you want this price, you must buy like 5 of these, right? And I don't have space for 5 of them. I have space for 1. So buying food actually is a little bit more expensive for me because I can't buy in bulk, but that's my reality. And I've just had to adjust my budget for it and just move on because that's my reality and just worked around it. Another one, do you miss having more space? Oh, yes, there are times I do miss having the space. It's sometimes, I do feel a little cramped in here because that's another question. But the crampedness usually is seasonal and it's depending on what's going on. Like here in Arizona, I'm going on my 3rd summer living in southern Arizona, and it is tough living in the heat in a small space. And so I have to, and I've got these big windows on it, so I have to basically seal up the windows, put insulation in and so then I don't get sun in all summer long. So it does start to feel cramped in this little tiny space and it's dark. But once I can open up the windows, it is amazing. So yes and no. There's times I love it and there are times I do struggle, and I'm going to tell you I will struggle this summer, but I will figure that out and I will get through it and then it's going to be great again. So yeah. With that also, it's like when I'm able to open up the windows and I'm able to use the outside space, it is just perfect. Next one is, do you feel isolated? Not really. I've got neighbors like 10 feet away. So I've never felt isolated in here. I'm always surrounded by people. And even on the summertime here, there's not that many. I still don't feel isolated, even though I don't have someone right next to me. It's kind of honestly, I think for me is I'm an introvert at heart. So I enjoy my alone time because all my jobs are surrounded by or dealing with people and talking a lot. And so it's actually kind of nice for me to have it's kind of like my she shit. So yeah, I actually do enjoy it. All right. And the truth is, everything I just shared with you, those barriers, a lot of the other ones that I listed earlier, they're mine too. I face them in my own way, especially with realities of tiny living. But instead of waiting for the perfect circumstance, I've learned just to work within the framework I have and make the best of it. And that's really the goal for all of us. Not just perfection, not ideal conditions, just learning to adapt, adjust, and keep moving forward with what we have. Now, if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to my podcast or tell someone else about it. I would greatly appreciate it. You may also find me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube at Body and Mind Strong. Also, if this episode resonates with you and you're ready for more clarity, balance, and support in your wellness journey, I'd love to hear from you. Reach out at bodymindstrong.com or check my website out at bodymindstrong.com. And stay tuned for more episodes on helping you create a healthier, happier, stronger life for yourself. And make sure you're doing at least one thing today that's going to get you one step closer to one of your goals. Have a great day.